Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Let's make sure we have all our board members up here. Josh, is Angie Stone here? Yes. Okay. Angie and Josh, you are part of the board today, so please join us up here. Good morning, Angie. There you are. We have Bluffton, we have Beaufort, we have Beaufort County, we have Jasper County. Anybody else that I'm missing? Okay. Well, we'll go and get started right away, and we're going to have an update from the Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust. Introducing for the first time Mr. Claude Hicks. And Jennifer, are you going to be, you're going to let him fly solo. Okay, yeah. And here's the pilot, flying his first solo flight, Mr. Claude Hicks, the director of the Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know Jennifer very well, she tells me what to do every day, and I just do it without any response. She keeps everything running. She is our Director of Operations at the Trust. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. You are my, I've been here 5 months. You are my 75th group that I have talked to in that 5 months. And everybody asks similar questions. Everybody seems totally baffled by housing and what to do about it and how we might approach it in this area. Technology gets us all.
Look at our slideshow from the beginning.
Jennifer.
Shows it down the bottom.
Oh, can you dance?
There we go. Thank you, sir. Is that going to be in the job description of your new job?
Jack of all trades.
No, I'm not up to speed.
All right, one second. Might have to
I can drive it if you want me to just advance it. I can drive it. I'll do that. Is that good? I'll just, there you go.
So we'll go back to the next slide. So who is the Housing Trust? Everybody sitting in this room is the Housing Trust. You all have members who sit on our board and represent you. The Housing Trust is unique in that it was formed first as a housing trust, then it was recreated as a 501c3 corporation. Our mission is very simple: create and preserve affordable and workforce housing in Beaufort and Jasper counties. It can't get any simpler than that. So one of the things that I'm asked about all the time, and everyone seems totally confused about, is what is area median income? And the reason that this is important for this group is this is what drives many of the avenues that we take to receive funding. It drives construction lending. It drives money from South Carolina Housing Finance, and in many cases drives funding from private resources who are looking to focus in on a specific part of our community. AMI, area median income, is very simply the average income of a specific area. So Beaufort County has an AMI, Beaufort City has an AMI, Jasper County has an AMI, and they all differ and they all change on an annual basis. HUD goes back and takes a look at whether incomes have gone up or down and moderates those dollars accordingly. This is the biggest question that I'm asked all the time. What is the difference between affordable housing and workforce housing? Workforce housing, by and large, is the predominant term that is used in this area because housing here has really become an economic development issue, primarily to find a way to house service workers, to house young teachers, to house young firemen, young EMS workers. They can't find a place to live here. They certainly can't live in Beaufort. They can't live in Hilton Head. It's become impossible. So workforce housing is defined as anything that is available for rent and purchase up to 120% of area median income. Affordable housing is anything that is available for rent or purchase that is at 60% of AMI or below. That distinction is accepted by HUD, it's accepted by South Carolina Housing Finance, and in most of the programs that we work in, that is a differentiation between workforce housing and affordable housing. Affordable housing has taken on, over my 25 plus years in this business, a tough reputation in most communities. They link it to Section 8 housing, they link it to housing authority housing, and it is not. Affordable housing in today's environment is almost exclusively private partnerships, and most of the limited partners in those partnerships are names that you would recognize. Virtually all of the Fortune 500 in the United States have at some point invested in affordable housing across the country. Let's take a look at what this means on an AMI perspective here. At 60% in Beaufort, 60% moderately low. The average income is $60,500. Monthly affordability. This is what someone making 60% or less could afford to pay. You'll note that at $1,500, that is substantially below what the market is charging here. Currently, a one-bedroom is $1,800. A two-bedroom is $2,300, and a three-bedroom has now gone above $2,600. Those are rents that a young family cannot afford to pay. If they are, they're way, way, way exceeding the amount of their income that they should be paying for rent. 80% of AMI in Beaufort County is $80,000. 100% of median family income for a family of four is $106,000. 120% is $127,000. But if you look at the 80% figure, their monthly affordability is $2,000, which means that they couldn't even afford a two-bedroom for a family of four. This gives you a sense of the struggle that we are having, and a lot of housing nonprofits and for-profits are having, trying to get to rents that people can actually afford. It is a real, real issue and a real struggle, obviously in an area like this where we need those workers. We have to have those workers in order for us to survive. This is people with an affordability challenge. Affordability challenge means HUD's definition is that you should pay no more than 30% of your income in rent. That is the national average. That is the definition that HUD accepts. If you look at Beaufort and Jasper County, and you look at people making between 0 and 60% of area median income, you can see how many people pay more than 30% of their income in rent. We consider these to be rent-burdened, cost-burdened families. What does that mean? That means that every dollar that they pay in rent over that 30% threshold means that they are putting less food on the table. It means that they are buying an older car. It means that they are doing without a lot of the things that you and I enjoy on a daily basis. If you look at cost burden renters, pay attention to the bottom two. Those are people who are either cost burdened or severely cost burdened. Severely cost burdened means that they pay more than 50% of their income, sometimes 70% of their income in rent. If you are paying 70% of your income in rent, you are not putting food on the table. You are not buying a car that will get you back and forth to work. You are not doing the things that the rest of us enjoy and think about as no problem, no issue. Cable, no problem. Well, cable many times drives a computer. Cable many times drives a laptop. That means there's no service in that household. So you can see how paying more of your money in rent, we've all done it. When we were all younger, we got into a place we couldn't really afford, and we said, well, we'll stretch it. We'll buy those Hungry Man dinners, and we'll spend less at the movies, and we'll spend less discretionary income. And then we get in there, and about 3 months later, you're like, maybe I made a mistake. Here, there are no mistakes because there aren't any alternatives. There's nowhere to live. So, what have we done in the 5 months that I've been here, and what have you done and contributed to make the trust viable in this area? We have 3 platforms. One is to create and preserve affordable housing, one is to do home repairs, and one is to do first-time home buyers. Out of the 8 recipients that we awarded this year, each of those platforms was addressed in the monies that they've received and that they are putting out into the community. This is the progress to date. Carrington Manor, you see a picture of, it's on Boundary. It is further along than this. It is a senior affordable housing deal right next to a family affordable housing deal. And as wonderful as this is and as great as this is, my first question when I got here was, what's going to happen when those are filled up and everybody at 8 o'clock in the morning wants to turn right on Boundary Road? It's going to be an issue, but it was the only land that people could buy and reasonably afford to develop. 40 owners are going to get funding to move into their first home, including in Hardeeville. We are the institution that is supplying money for the first-time home buyers of the 10 Habitat units that are being finished as we speak in Hardeeville. So they got their financing from everybody else, but for their down payment assistance, and the Housing Trust is the one providing that to all 10 families. 98 homes are projected to be preserved with our funding to our grantees, and we received a $3 million allocation from the state of South Carolina to further help what we are doing. How are we going to utilize those funds? We're looking at where the trust funds don't meet the need. So, for example, we are working right now with the City of Beaufort to talk about a program to address home needs for repair. They've identified some pretty tough homes in the area that need something, that need to be repaired. The mayor led a conversation last week, a discussion in a workshop about how the city could make a difference. The trust is going to match the funds put up by the City of Beaufort to put into a pool, along with some other, hopefully some other developers and some other institutions, to create a robust program to begin taking care of homes that need to be repaired with residents that don't have the funds to do it. So what we have done already has put just shy of $1 million into the 8 grants that we put out to our recipients. We expect to have another round next year. We really want to take the balance of this year and the first quarter of next year to see how our grantees are utilizing our funds, to make sure that they're going for what they said they were going to go for, and that if they are struggling, that we find a way to help them put their programs into place. So the county provided the Housing Trust with the oversight responsibility for funding $600,000 that they gave to CCDC. I'm very pleased to tell you that CCDC has located 12 townhomes for them to purchase in their program. We'll be providing them $450,000 out of the $600,000 so that they can make those home purchases and then rent them at affordable rates. We're reviewing 6 potential land development opportunities. Developers who have come to us said, I've got an idea, I'm looking at this, what do you think? We give them our insight. Their next question is, do you have any money? Our answer is maybe, but we're trying to help developers get their projects out of the ground, get them financed, and move forward. And we supported the recent approval, at least initial approval, for a local developer that we supported last year to put a 60-unit affordable housing project in Hardeeville. We supported the fact that the Hardeeville actually gave them the land. That makes the deal work, as opposed to them buying the land, which didn't make the deal work last year. So we're pleased to be a part of that and pleased to support it. We have made an initial $440,000 contribution and commitment to that project. So we'll see how it goes. And we have applied to become a sponsor in the South Carolina Housing Home Building Repair Program. This is a $20 million fund set aside by the state. When I got here, I said, we certainly qualify. How do we get some of those funds? Well, you need to come to a class. I said, okay. Where's the class? Well, it's in Columbia. Okay. Only 20 people can come. Okay. So we went, and out of those 20 people, only 3 organizations were qualified to be able to access this $20 million. So we have submitted our application. Jennifer did a 120-page application to the state, and we're awaiting response from them on whether we are qualified to begin using some of that $20 million to help people who need their homes repaired in Beaufort and Jasper counties. This was our first funding round. Some of these organizations you will recognize. Some of them are new. We got 14 applications. These are the 8 that we decided to go with. These represent $984,000 in monies from the trust. What is the current state of affordable housing? There are 7,300,000 families today that need housing. That grows by about 1,000 families a day. It has especially grown during the post-COVID era, when people literally got evicted, had nowhere to live, and are looking for affordable housing. The lack of single-family home opportunities are evident. You all know Beaufort, just past Charleston, is one of the most expensive places to live. That means there's not a whole lot of other opportunities out there, and these are things that the trust is going to have to create. We're going to work with our partners, we're going to work with you all to try and figure out how best to address the issue. Costs are becoming so prohibitive that even with a lot of support money, projects still are not going to work. We're waiting to see if the interest rate environment is going to change. We're waiting to see if the supply environment is going to change. I can tell you that prices are not going to go down with respect to labor. They're going to stay where they are. And if probably, in all probability, they're going to rise. And the Fed depending on what happens in November, may or may not increase the amount of tax credits coming to each state. That is a conversation that I first had 12 years ago, and it has gone through 12 years of finagling with Washington politics, and it's still not been passed. So I'm not exactly sure what it's going to take to get passed, but we will see. Here are our board of directors. Many of those names you recognize because many of them are you. This is a robust board of 16. Is it 16 or 17 now? 17. Tom Hens from Hilton Head just joined our board. So we are relying on this board, which has a number of people who have been here for a long time and a number of people who are new to not only this area, but are new to affordable housing and workforce housing and are trying to make a contribution. This is the reality of where we are at in Beaufort and Jasper counties. No housing equals no workers, equals no economic development, equals no community. You all know far better than I. If we don't figure out a way to house service workers, if we don't figure out a way to house young families, we are going to be what in my world is called a dying community. I think it's a reality that we have to figure this problem out. There are a ton of solutions. There are a ton of people who are very smart and are working very hard to figure this out. But at the end of the day, it takes three things: capital, political will, and a desire on the part of the community to address this issue. And we hope that you're going to be a part of that discussion. We look forward to working with you in the future. We've gotten a lot done in the less than 2 years that we've been an organization. We appreciate all of your support and all of your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Very, very informative. And thank you for the work that the trust is doing on behalf of all the communities of both Beaufort and Jasper County. Before you run away, don't get comfortable. First the board and then the public. Any questions for Mr. Hicks? Yes, Phil.
Claude, these low-income housing tax credit projects, some of them have 15 to 20-year, time frames. After that, a lot of them flip the market. You got any suggestions on? Because if you had to buy those things, it'd be cost prohibitive, I would imagine.
Every tax credit project now, every housing finance agency puts a 30 to 45-year affordability on it. So even if it gets sold, and I don't want to go into the weeds, but I'll tell you one thing that is great about this program. Every 15 years, government realized that every project is updating energy efficiency, upgrades. Apartments tire out after 15 years. So what they allow is they allow that complex to be re-syndicated, to bring in fresh capital, new investors every 15 years. So they target the affordability to about 45 years. That's about the shelf life of an apartment complex. So in this market, you really don't have to worry about flipping because it's become extremely difficult to do. You can do it, but it's going to be very costly, and you're going to get huge money.
Mr. Hicks, could I ask you to go back to the microphone?
Sure.
Alice?
I just wanted to thank you for helping us. It seems like every developer now that comes to the county wanting a upzone uses the word affordable and workforce housing as a promise. And we send them to you and you tell them the truth about how to do that and what their expectations would be. And it has helped us as county council members not to be charmed by some of these developers who make a lot of verbal promises without making anything
thank you. I think that was one of the intentions of the trust, was to try and have a regional entity that would answer those questions and that would advocate on what is reality. There are several projects that are looking at development in this area that are looking at a mixed-use, mixed-income type of a project. Mixed income means you have some units at market rate, you have some units at affordable rates, you have some units at workforce rates. It is a very complicated situation to try and meet the government's requirements to do that. They do it primarily to make the deal work financially. I mean, it is a real opportunity. What happens is that most developers don't think about the community issue. So if I'm living in a 2-bedroom house, and HUD dictates that if you have a mixed income community, all apartments must be the same. So if I have a 2-bedroom and I'm at the affordable rate of $900 a month, and my neighbor living in the same exact 2-bedroom has a rate of $1,500 a month, you have to be able to address that so that it doesn't blow up into a community issue. And that's what a lot of developers don't think about. So we're helping them figure out ways to address that up front so that people understand what it is that they're moving into. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, there, a lot of developers throw those words around, I'm finding. Anyone else from the board?
Claude, a quick question for you. You mentioned that the trust was able to qualify as compared to a number of other entities. You said you were one of 3. Was there anything specific about the trust, about the way that it was established, that allowed you to qualify?
2 things. Number 1, there is a liquidity requirement. One gentleman stood up and said, I came to you because I thought you were going to give me money to address this issue. You didn't tell me that I have to have money in order to get your money. So he promptly just got up, got his stuff, and walked out. That's 1. Number 2, there's an experience requirement. So for the benefit of those of you who don't know me or haven't heard me before, I have 25 years of experience, 250 developments, 15,000 units, and over $1 billion in equity in workforce and affordable housing. I was the only person in the room with any experience. So, but still, we sent our 120-page application in, and they came back and said, we still need clarification on 3 things. So those were the major issues. People didn't realize they have to be liquid. They have to have a balance sheet. The state's not going to give them funding and put them in jeopardy if they don't have the ability to operate.
Anyone else from the board?
Yes, Claude, when we set up the trust fund, each of our entities made a contribution to start it. And we have over a lifespan an amount of money that each of us is going to put in. To ensure that that is constantly being replenished so that somebody doesn't forget to budget that, are you going to be the one to send out notices to the various entities to say your bill this year is X?
We did.
Okay.
So we sent that out to every entity that said, not only is your obligation this, here is what it's going for. When they established the trust in the beginning, everyone outlined their contribution for the next 7 years. So everybody kind of knows what it is, what's going to be upcoming.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Hicks, does that include, is the $3 million we got from the state last year, is that a renewable, or do we have to continue to apply to Mr. Senator Davis?
I wish it was renewable. So we have spoken to Senator Davis, who reminded us that one of the ways that he got that earmark was basically because the community had already committed. So the fact that each of you committed to fund the trust, allowed him to have a much easier conversation in Columbia. He has asked us to come back in November after the election and talk to him about what else we need. There are plenty of things that we could fund and that we turn away just because we don't have access to those funds. But we hope to ask for another allocation in this coming legislative session.
I hope we ask for a lot more. Hint, hint. Okay, we have time for one or two questions from the public. Are there any questions before we move on? Yes, Dan?
You know, I'm going to ask,
I was waiting for you.
one of the possibilities that came from when we established this fund was to leverage additional money, and it appeared that that's what you've been doing. So from where you started, how much additional revenue have you been able to leverage because of this organization so far?
So we are in the process of seeing where our leverage dollars have amounted to. We have to wait a little bit. Our $984,000 contributions to these 8 entities, we want to look at what it is they're producing and see how we have leveraged our funds into their funds. We're talking right now, for example, the $600,000 that came from the county for CCDC, we are the stewards of that $600,000. So that came into our bank accounts. We are overseeing that program. We are talking right now with several entities about how they might be able to work with us to bring additional funding in. We know right now, and we've talked to some of the foundations in the local area, that we need to apply for their grant resources. We are getting ready to apply for a $500,000 grant from Federal Home Loan Bank to take a look at heirs property issues in this area. We're also talking to several of the banks in the area about accessing their foundations. Truist Bank was in our offices last week talking to them about whether housing issues are part of their dynamic and a part of what they want to do. So hopefully by the end of the year, we will know how many dollars our dollars produced and how our dollars have leveraged into projects that have really made an impact in the area.
Great question and great answer. Thank you so much. Wish you a lot of luck. This organization, the seed was planted in this organization, and we encourage you and welcome you back whenever you feel there's some updates needed for this group. So,
We will certainly take that as an invitation, and we'll act upon it. Thank you all for this, and we look forward to working with each of you as we move forward. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Hicks. Next on our agenda, last month, we wanted to follow up on the child care initiatives or information that was presented by Representative Shannon Erickson and Ms. Jody Levitt. An organization was formed, and Mr. Orlando Lewis, who is behind me and headed to the podium, volunteered to head this committee. This has a committee of 3, Mr. Lewis, Ms. Jody Levitt, and Doug McGill from Bluffton. Are they here also? Oh, hi, Jody. So, Mr. Lewis, thank you. Mr. Lewis sent me a very, very professional and thorough mission, and I asked him to come and share that with this group. Thank you for coming, and without further ado, it's all yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Williams. I won't be before you long. The slide presentation we have is short, but we do want to be thorough, and we want to make sure that we showcase the fact that we're making progress. So, of course, we'll move on to the next slide. The first two things we wanted to do was identify the name to ensure that we encapsulate what the expectation is in terms of our roles and responsibilities. So the subcommittee name, we decided to leave it the same. It's the Low Country Child Care Initiative. And currently, the body who is facilitating this particular subcommittee is myself, Ms. Jody Levitt, and then also Mr. Doug McGill. One of the things that we wanted to do, secondly, is to identify what will be the driving force of this particular committee. So we moved forward, we came together and identified a few points that we thought were key for our community, and we developed this particular mission statement. And we'll move forward, and I'll read this for those of us who may be in my age category or beyond, who may not be able to see the words before you. So the mission statement is as stands. The Low Country Child Care Initiative, LCI, is committed to ensuring that every child within Beaufort and Jasper counties has access to high quality, affordable, and inclusive early childhood education. We aim to address the unique child care challenges across the varying districts of SOLOCO by advocating for equitable resources, fostering community partnerships, and promoting policies that support the development and well-being of our youngest residents. Our charge is to empower families, uplift educators, and create a sustainable framework that nurtures the potential of every child, regardless of their background and circumstances. Once we identified the mission statement, the next phase of development was to take a look at who in our community is doing very similar work. We did not want to duplicate services. We wanted to consolidate those efforts. So one of the things that we identified, there were right now, as far as we know, there are three primary drivers in our community who are focusing on some of the same things. We have the Uplifting Childhood Initiative that's being spearheaded by Mr. Daniel Wood. We also have the Early Childhood Coalition of the Low Country. Myself and Ms. Jordan, we participate in that. That's also being chaired by Mr. Dale Dothet. And then we also have the Child Care Task Force that's also being initiated by John Score. So one thing that we did not want to do is we did not want to divide our efforts. So our next step is to reach out to those parties, see how we can bring them all to the table so we can consolidate our efforts, and then be able to identify what are some of the primary focal points that we want to target. So that pretty much concludes my report. Definitely want to open the floor to questions.
Okay, let's start with the board. Any questions from the board?
Not a question, but a comment for you. One of the things that we are doing as a group of individuals, we have approached the South Carolina Association of Counties, and they are going to take it up as a legislative initiative to have legislation that will be more enhancing of child care with less encumbering rules, regulations. So that has been accepted by the South Carolina Association of Counties.
That's great, thank you.
Anyone else from the board?
Yes, we do. From Jasper, the churches are the center of everything in Jasper County. Have you included them in some way? They may not be in a form that of other formal organizations, but there's a bunch of them out there that do the same thing that could use your help.
Yeah, yes, sir. One of the things that we identified in our initial correspondence via email was all the varying entities who are in the realm of early childhood education. But the next step that we wanted to first identify was those active movers in the community who are consolidating very similar efforts. But our long-term goal is to be inclusive of all those entities. Yes, sir.
Would you look for more people to put on your committee?
Yes, that's what we're doing right now. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? I have one question. I forget whether I sent this to you or not, but I'm looking at your mission statement. One of the things that I really like is that along with child care, there's early childhood education attached to it. But there also, besides education, the need that we are been made aware of is also for getting more child care facilities and services, that there's not enough and they're very expensive. Is that inclusive in this mission statement?
Well, I can tell you one thing, the mission statement is currently still in development.
Right.
That's something that we've identified as well. There's quite a few things that we really have to take a look at, and one of the things that we also need to address at some point is our higher education, because we're also seeing a huge decline in those students who are enrolling in early childhood education. So we don't have an effective workforce who are, obviously prepared to provide those children and families with those services. That's going to be dilemma in itself. So what you just stated, along with the educational piece as well, in terms of grooming professionals, those are some things we've identified. So it's a plethora of concerns that we have to address. So the mission statement is maybe brought forth again for further review.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up question, one of the things that the subcommittee, all our subcommittees have been effective in doing, as you review the situation and you have legislative things like Chairman Passman just brought up, we're here for any recommendations from the subcommittee where we as a group, there's 8 entities involved here, 2 counties and 6 municipalities, where we can effectively perhaps lobby or band together to try to get effective action in Columbia. So I highly recommend that those be part of what your mission is, to come back to us and say, hey, this is what could help. Do this, this, and this, and that will help the situation that you're trying to solve.
Thank you for that. And we will use every resource.
Okay. Anyone else from the board before I hand over to the public? Anyone from the public? Well, this is very exhaustive, and Mr. Lewis should, you gave me more information. Do you want me to pass that on to the board?
Yes,
All
please.
those
Yes.
options that you sent?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will send that out to the entire board. There was some more information that Mr. Lewis sent to me, and I'll make sure the board gets that. Thank you, good luck, and again, anything that you need from this board, and also let me know when you need to give this board updates, and I'll put you on the agenda, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you. Have a great morning.
And, one other question. You mentioned about getting more members. This is a good time and a good place. If you are looking for more members, let me put it a different way. Are you looking for more members from this board, or for this board to get for you?
I think in our next meeting, that'll be something that we'll take under consideration to see,
Okay.
who would be the most influential in terms of pulling those individuals together. So,
Need help in that area as well, please let us know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, we have one more topic on the agenda, and that is, we talked about last time about getting a committee together to look into possible initiatives on taking care of the massive litter situation that we have throughout the Lowcountry. I've received nominees. We met from Miss Lynn Boyles from Jasper County, and she heads Keep Jasper Beautiful program there. She couldn't make it today, but she will be a part of it. The city of Hardeeville has nominated one of their code enforcement officers, Mr. Richard Ray. The town of Beaufort has nominated from their public works department a Mr. Brian Durance. So we have 3 names, and there's a member in the audience that I'm trying to also recruit from the city of Hardeeville. I don't want to mention any names, Don, but I'll be working on that as well. I just want to put out there to everybody who has not responded, if you'd like to send over a member of this committee, let me know, and we'll kickstart that. I'll ask Lynn to try to get a subcommittee meeting with whoever the members are prior to next meeting. Next meeting, with the consent of the board, we can have, to tie into this issue, Ms. Victoria Hoffman from Beaufort County, who heads up their recycling program, and she would come, and perhaps we can tie in this subcommittee to what Beaufort County's doing in their recycling program as well. So if it suits the board, I'll make that arrangement with Ms. Hoffman. Is that okay with everybody? Yes.
Mayor Williams, I sent a representative from Hilton Head, TJ Jett.
Did I miss
Our
that?
Chief Environmental Officer will join.
I probably have that email and forgot to find it.
It's all fine.
Okay. All right. So we have Hilton Head.
Thank you.
Please forgive me.
Oh, no.
Teach you to go away.
What's that?
That will teach you to go away.
I still have vacation brain here.
Anyone from Beaufort County, keep Beaufort beautiful, contact you, I'll reach out.
No, not yet, unless I missed that email too. I'm only allowed one mistake per meeting. Okay. Since we have a couple of minutes and we don't have to make a decision today, I noticed in looking at the meeting dates coming up that are the 4th Tuesday of November is the week of Thanksgiving. I'm not going away, but many people do. So I'm going to throw out to the board, we do not have a December meeting. We can leave it there, we can move it a week earlier, or we can move it a week later, but leave it the way it is, whatever. Does anyone from the board have any thoughts on that? Just, okay. I'll leave it that 4th Tuesday, and that will be the last meeting of the month. And one last topic for the October agenda. So far, I have the recycling presentation from Ms. Hoffman. I'll update everybody on the list of who the litter committee is. Are there any other thoughts from the board? Anything else that you would like to see come forward for the month of October?
I don't know about October, but sometime in the future, I think we need to tackle this homelessness and this tie in with affordable housing. That's an issue that's coming up for the city.
That was on our list. If you recall, we took a poll survey of the board members of what future agenda items were, and homelessness was certainly on that list as a high priority. So we also have for November, there was someone else who asked to meet, but I'll get that out to everybody. Any other thoughts for October?
Mayor?
Yes.
In regards to the discussion about the homelessness topic, my understanding is that Beaufort County has a full staff member whose focus is on addressing homelessness.
I don't know if I would say it's full-time, they're only focused, but we can talk about that.
There was somebody that was looking
Yeah,
at.
they do the annual count and that kind of work, but,
I thought there also been somebody that was hired, because if we had an issue come up, now this was a while ago, but ultimately we contacted staff, I think under Ben Boswell.
Right, Fish Hospital's in charge of
Yeah.
that department, that those kind of issues.
Okay.
We can check on that.
Did we have, Mr. Ramirez speak from her?
What's that?
Mr. Ramirez?
She's now in a different position. But she got promoted, I guess, is part of it. Yeah. But we'll check on it. Yeah. So that would be November timeframe? What about?
So perhaps, as often happens, we hear from what experts. So if this Beaufort County, whether full or part, someone from Beaufort County, and maybe families in transition, John, if you could check for Jasper County and give this committee an overview, a report of what the condition is. You know, what, just like childcare, we learned what the needs are. Perhaps if we get the committee, this board can get an overview of what the needs are and how, yeah, deep the situation is.
I will share, we did have for homeless veterans, I think about a month ago, we had a 5 people at that, and the sheriff's department and AMVETS went and picked up people that were homeless. They didn't necessarily have to be veterans, but I think the majority of them were, and they had an all-day event for them. And we could give a report on that too, what the results of that. And this was just for and they went around to where they knew the encampments were brought to that.
Well, I'll follow up with you two and see if either one of the two counties have someone that would be willing to come and give a report, whether it be October or November, okay?
Also, United Way has a simulation, homeless simulation, where they go in and they simulate you have no money and you go around. That'd be interesting. Several people have gone to that. They said they were really amazed at it. They don't realize what was going on. So maybe I'll call United Way and see if they want.
Yeah, call them and see. That's Dale.
Right.
Dale could give you some information on that. And for November, if the board okays, one of the agenda items, Rich Goff, the president of TCL, would like to come and give us an update on the Workforce Training Center. So he'll be available at the November meeting.
Homeless condition in our region. Are we just going to talk about what they are, or are we going to talk about how we can move forward to a solution to what we're about? Because I think data is already in place. So are we just going to repeat what we already know we have, or are we going to try to figure out what would be a corrective measure to move forward?
I think, like all the issues that this board has taken up, I think we first understand what the problem is from the experts, and then B, what can we do to move the needle forward? Not to necessarily duplicate, as Mr. Lewis said, we don't want to duplicate what some other efforts are being done. But like many problems, they're multifaceted, and just, you know, maybe this group can focus in on a facet that's not being addressed. That's just my initial thoughts. Do you have anything different, Fred, or any other thinking?
I don't have any other thinking, but I just feel like we're going to learn what we already know. So how are we going to, once we come back and they tell us what we've heard before, what they've discovered before, where do we go next? Because next has been delayed for years and years and years. So how do we, if we're going to pick the subject up, or if we're going to pick the issue up, then I think before we get to someone telling us that there's 10,000 people in Beaufort and Jasper counties that are homeless, what can we do that will be a corrective measure, because we already know that they're there. We see them all the time. At least I see them all the time.
Well, that from Fed, we do a census every year, it's required. And we constantly talk about it. I think that if you get people in here to talk, that are going to tell us about what's happening, then we can ask the question, what can we do to improve it? You know, it's just, that's how you do it. I think start up, getting the information, and when the experts are here, then that's when you ask the question, what we can do, then we go proceed from there. Because it's a very difficult thing to do. I mean, with FIT, we have all this support. In fact, United Way has just put in showers to go around. That's part of it. And they're in a big program now to set up procedures for a location that will help the homeless become non-homeless. They will educate them, they'll give them money, they'll educate them, they'll try to find housing for them, they'll work with each individual to get them to become a productive citizen. So I think we explore and start that way. Because to tell you the truth, when I started with FIT, which is Family Institute Transition, which is in Jasper County, didn't realize how bad it was, and especially when you go into the woods and you see a town in the woods. So that's all I say. I think we get the people here and then we ask them.
All right, so
I would agree with that. I think it's important to have that presentation to the group, so the group can have the same information when they bring the conversation forward, that we're all talking in the same realm, and how do we want to address it, into what realm. Understanding those you can help and those you cannot help is a big part of it. So I agree with having that presentation first, even though we've heard it before and we've got the data, but can you ever hear it too much, right, for the public to have access as well? But that'll help drive the conversation better.
Well, and it's not just homelessness as an overarching issue, it's the underlying causes of homelessness, which could be affordability, mental health, substance abuse. You know, it's a mix of all of those, but understanding what those underlying issues are to then help connect those individuals with resources once we become aware of what may be available within the community.
well, I don't know about other elected officials, but I know homeless is there, but I don't know the extent of the problem. I don't know what the causes of the problem are. I haven't been, it hasn't been in the forefront of my mind. And one of the things that this board has done over the years is bring issues such as this to the forefront so that we as a group and we as elected officials and entities, the jurisdictions can start to look at it and perhaps come up with solutions or part of the solution. So it seems, if fair to say, that the board would like to hear presentations on homelessness, and I'll work on with Alice and John to get presentations set up and bring to a future agenda item, okay? And that brings us, I'm looking at my computer, exactly 11 o'clock. So thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you. The next meeting is in Hardeeville, and it is, I got my list right here. October the 22nd in Hardyville. Thank you all.